They say the most difficult battle is the one we fight within ourselves. And I've come to believe that this is absolutely true. If we want to win in life, we must first learn to win over our own thoughts, our habits, and our impulses. We must learn self-discipline, not as a punishment, but as a form of self-respect. You see, discipline is not about waking up at 5 a.m. every day and ticking off tasks like a robot. It is about keeping the promises you make to yourself, especially when no one is watching. It's about doing the hard things, the boring things, the uncomfortable things, not because you feel like it, but because you know that's what will get you closer to the life you want. There was a time in my own life when everything felt out of control. My body was broken, my spirit felt crushed, but in the middle of all that chaos I realized something. I still had control over how I responded. I could still choose how I showed up for myself even in pain. That's where discipline began for me. Not in perfection, but in persistence. It began when I chose to push through the days I didn't feel like speaking, smiling, or even continuing. It began when I chose to keep showing up anyway. We often think that freedom is doing whatever we want, whenever we want. But that kind of freedom without direction leads to chaos. Real freedom, the kind that brings peace, comes from discipline, from having structure, from knowing what to say no to, so we can say yes to what truly matters. When you train your mind to obey your values instead of your moods, that is when you start to win. I know it's not easy. There will be days when your energy is low, your motivation disappears, and nothing makes sense. Those are the exact days when self-discipline becomes your best friend. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the firewood. It's the quiet power behind every great transformation. Not loud, not glamorous, but absolutely essential. I want you to imagine a version of yourself that has everything you've ever dreamed of. Confidence, clarity, strength, peace. That version of you is not somewhere far away. That version is built, day by day, through the decisions you make when no one is cheering, through the moments you choose progress over comfort, through the times you keep moving forward even when it hurts. And sometimes, discipline is not just about doing more. It's about knowing when to rest too. It's about listening to your body, respecting your limits, but not making excuses. It's a balance. It's grace and grit together. So, if you are waiting for the perfect moment to begin, don't. Begin now. Start with one thing: make your bed, drink your water, take the walk, finish the book you started. Show yourself that you are capable of following through, no matter how small the task. Because every small act of discipline creates a ripple in your life. And over time, those ripples become a wave that can move mountains. We all want to achieve something meaningful in this life. But no dream, no vision, no relationship will survive without discipline. Talent will give you the spark, but discipline will carry the flame. And if you want to win, not just exist, but win, then you must train your mind to follow through long after the excitement has faded. So I leave you with this. Discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It's about loving yourself enough to demand more. When I ask people what they want from life, most of them pause. They say things like, I just want to be happy, or I want to be successful. But when I ask them what happiness or success really means to them, they go silent. And that silence isn't because they don't care. It's because somewhere along the way, we were taught to chase goals without asking ourselves why they matter. To win in life, we must know our why, not someone else's why, not society's version of success, or your why. The reason you wake up every morning. The thing that keeps your heart beating with meaning, even when life feels heavy. Purpose isn't some grand idea written in the stars. It's personal, and it often starts in the quiet moments, in the pain, in the struggles we try to avoid. For me, purpose was born from the ashes of tragedy. I never asked to be in a wheelchair. I never planned for my life to be flipped upside down, but when I stopped asking, why me, and started asking, what now, everything changed. My purpose didn't scream at me. It whispered. It said, "You still have a voice. Use it." And I want to tell you, you don't need a dramatic story to find your purpose. You just need to listen. Listen to what makes you feel alive. Pay attention to the things that make you lose track of time. Notice the people and places that fill you with peace or passion. Your purpose is often hiding in plain sight, behind the things that stir your soul. But you have to be brave enough to stop running from yourself. The world is loud. It will try to sell you 1,000 versions of success. It will try to convince you to be everything except who you truly are. And if you don't know your purpose, you'll chase things that look good but feel empty. You'll achieve everything and still feel lost. When you know your purpose, everything changes. Not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger. You stop chasing applause. You stop comparing yourself to everyone else. You stop needing validation, because you're no longer living someone else's script. You're writing your own. And purpose doesn't mean you won't feel doubt. It doesn't mean every day will be filled with fireworks. Some days, purpose feels like getting up when you'd rather stay down. It's choosing to keep going even when the path isn't clear. It's knowing that even if no one claps, what you're doing matters, because it aligns with who you truly are. You see, when we live without purpose, we end up chasing approval, but when we live with purpose, we start chasing impact. And impact always lasts longer than applause. You have a reason for being here, and no, it doesn't have to be perfect or polished. It just has to be real. Your life doesn't need to make sense to everyone. It just needs to make sense to wow you. You don't need everyone to understand your path. It's not for them, it's for you. So if you feel lost right now, that's okay. Sometimes being lost is how we learn to find ourselves again. But don't settle. Don't numb the longing in your heart. That longing is your soul trying to come alive again. Honor it. Listen to it. Follow it. Even if it's slow, even if it's messy. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful person is not the one who has it all figured out. It's the one who has found their reason to wake up and refuses to let it go. Growth never happens in the comfort zone, and yet most of us spend so much of our lives trying to stay safe, to avoid failure, rejection, embarrassment, or uncertainty. We stay in jobs we've outgrown, relationships that drain us, and patterns that shrink us, just because they're familiar. But here's the truth, comfort is not peace. Sometimes comfort is just fear in disguise. I had to learn that the hard way. There came a time when everything that once felt familiar was suddenly gone. My body, my dreams, my plans, all shattered in a moment. And when you're stripped of everything, you're forced to ask yourself, who am I really? What is left when all the labels and expectations are gone? It was then that I realized, growth is not born in perfection, it's born in discomfort, in starting over, in rising again and again, from the ashes of what you thought life was supposed to be. We avoid discomfort because it feels like pain. But growth is painful. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're shedding layers that no longer serve you. Just like a seed breaks through the ground in darkness before it reaches the light, we grow the most when we're being stretched, tested, and challenged. That's how we become stronger. That's how we uncover parts of ourselves we never knew existed. The people you admire, the ones who've truly made a difference, none of them got there by playing it safe. They stumbled, they failed, they felt fear just like you and me. But they chose growth. They chose to speak even when their voice trembled, to keep going even when the path disappeared. They understood that courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means moving forward despite it. I want you to think about the moments in your life when you truly grew. Not just externally, but internally. It wasn't when things were easy, was it? It was probably during heartbreak, during uncertainty, during those nights when you cried alone but still showed up the next day. That's what growth looks like. It's not loud, It's not always beautiful, but it's real. You are not here to play small. You were not born to live a life of quiet resignation, simply surviving. You are here to evolve, to challenge your limits, to break the patterns that no longer serve you. And yes, that means walking into the unknown. It means saying yes to opportunities that scare you. It means trusting that even if you fall, you will rise wiser. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you plant a seed in your future. And no, the results won't come overnight. But little by little, you'll become someone you're proud of. You'll build resilience. You'll discover strengths you never imagined. And most importantly, you'll stop shrinking just to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. Don't let fear keep you in a life that doesn't reflect who you are becoming. Fear will tell you to stay where it's safe, but your soul will whisper, there's more. And that whisper, that quiet nudge, is not to be ignored. That's your future calling. So don't be afraid to let go of what's familiar. Don't be afraid to outgrow people, places, or versions of yourself that no longer feel aligned. It's okay to leave behind comfort if it means choosing growth. Because growth, even when it's messy, even when it's uncomfortable, will always lead you home, to the truest, strongest, most radiant version of who you were meant to be. There is something incredibly powerful about a person who believes in themselves. Not loudly, not arrogantly, but quietly, deeply, and unshakably. That kind of confidence doesn't come from applause or perfection. It comes from within. It comes from knowing who you are, even when the world tries to convince you otherwise. And I've learned that the most important kind of confidence you can ever build is the kind that cannot be taken away. Not by failure, not by rejection, not by the opinions of others. People often think confidence means always being strong, always knowing what to say, always having everything figured out. But that's not confidence. That's pressure. True confidence is softer, deeper. It's about being okay with not having all the answers, but trusting yourself to figure it out along the way. It's about standing in your truth, even when it feels uncomfortable. I didn't wake up one day feeling confident. In fact, there were many days when I didn't even want to look in the mirror. When I felt invisible. When I felt like I had nothing left to offer. But somewhere along the way, I realized that confidence is not something you find. It's something you build, brick by brick, decision by decision, moment by moment. It begins when you stop waiting for someone to tell you you're enough, and decide to believe it for yourself. Confidence grows every time you do something that scares you. Every time you speak up even when your voice shakes. Every time you choose to try again after failing. You won't always feel ready. You won't always feel certain. But if you wait until you're fearless to act, you'll spend your whole life on the sidelines. Fear is not the enemy. In fact, fear is often a sign you're about to do something that matters. I've learned that we often give our power away without realizing it. We hand it over to people who don't see our worth, to systems that try to define us, to comparisons that leave us empty. But confidence is taking that power back. It's saying, I may not be perfect, but I am still worthy. I may have fallen, but I am still rising. I may have been broken, but I am not defeated. And confidence is not loud. It doesn't always look like bold words or big gestures. Sometimes, it looks like choosing kindness when it's easier to be bitter. Sometimes, it looks like walking into a room without needing to prove anything to anyone. Sometimes, it's the quiet assurance that you don't need to be like anyone else. Because who you are is already enough. I want you to stop waiting for permission to feel proud of yourself. Stop waiting for someone else to validate your journey. You are not here to impress. You are here to express your truth, your light, your purpose. Let your confidence come from that place. Let it come from knowing that you are doing the best you can, and that is always enough. You don't have to feel confident to act confident. In fact, many times you'll have to act first, and the belief will follow. That's how it works. You show up before you're ready. You speak before you're certain. You step forward before you know the outcome. And through those moments, you build trust in yourself. So, don't let self-doubt steal your voice. Don't let insecurity hold you back from the life that is waiting for you. You were not meant to shrink yourself for anyone's comfort. You were meant to take up space, to walk boldly in your truth, and to shine, not because the world told you to, but because you finally decided to believe you could. If there's one thing life has taught me over and over again, it's that we don't rise alone. No matter how strong, talented, or independent we are shaped by the people we allow into our lives. The voices we surround ourselves with, the energy we absorb, the love, or the pain that we carry from others, it all becomes part of our story. So if you truly want to win in life, you must learn how to build relationships that lift you, not limit you. Sometimes we think strength means doing everything on our own. We wear our independence like armor, thinking that needing others is weakness. But real strength is not in isolation. Real strength is in knowing when to lean in, when to ask for help, and when to let people in. None of us are meant to walk through life alone. Even the strongest trees need sunlight, water, and deep roots to grow. We must choose our circle with intention. The people you surround yourself with should not only believe in your dreams, but also challenge you to grow. They should speak life into you when you forget your worth. They should hold you accountable with love, not judgment. And most importantly, they should celebrate your light, not compete with it. I've learned that not everyone can go with you to every chapter of your life. And that's okay. Some people are part of your journey for a season, and their role is to teach you something. But growth often requires letting go. Letting go of relationships that drain your spirit. Letting go of approval from people who never really saw you. Letting go of the need to be understood by everyone. Because the right people won't make you shrink, they'll make you rise. And you must also be that kind of person for others. Because relationships aren't just about what you get. They're also about what you give. Be the friend who listens without judgment. Be the one who speaks kindness in rooms where gossip is loud. Be the one who shows up when it's inconvenient, not just when it's easy. Because love is not proven by words. It's proven by presence. Even in the hardest moments of my life, when my world was shattered and everything felt uncertain, I was reminded of the power of connection. It was the people who sat beside me in silence, the ones who reminded me that I still had worth, the ones who held space for my healing. They were the ones who helped me rebuild. They didn't fix everything. They didn't have all the answers, but they showed up. And sometimes that's more powerful than anything else. This is why I always say protect your energy. Not everyone deserves access to your heart. Not everyone has the capacity to love you in the way you need. And that doesn't mean you have to be bitter or build walls. It just means you become wiser with who you allow close. Some people will only water your doubt. Others will water your courage. Choose wisely. And don't underestimate the power of kindness in the relationships you create. A single word of encouragement, a gentle act of compassion, a moment of presence. These small things can change someone's entire day, maybe even their life. You never know what someone is carrying. You never know how your light might lead them out of their darkness. So, as you rise in your life, as you chase your purpose and grow through discomfort, remember this: you don't have to do it alone. But you do have to choose wisely. Build your circle with care. Be the kind of person you hope to find. And never forget, the connections you create along the way may be the very reason you reach your destination. One of the most precious things you have in this life is your energy. Where you place it, who you give it to, and how you protect it. These choices shape everything. And in a world that constantly pulls at your attention, where distractions are dressed up as opportunities and noise is mistaken for urgency, you have to learn to be intentional. You cannot win in life if you are drained, scattered, or always reacting to the chaos around you. You win when you learn to protect your energy and focus it where it truly matters. There was a time in my life when I said yes to everything. To people, to projects, to responsibilities that didn't align with who I was becoming. And while on the surface it looked like I was doing well, inside I was exhausted. I was pouring from an empty cup, trying to be everything to everyone, and forgetting who I was in the process. That's when I realized not everything deserves your attention. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every invitation is meant to be accepted. You must choose with care, because every choice either protects your peace or drains your spirit. Your energy is your power. It fuels your creativity, your confidence, your clarity. And if you waste it on things that don't feed your soul, you'll have nothing left for the things that do. So protect it fiercely. Set boundaries, not because you're selfish, but because you are finally honoring your own worth. Say no, not with guilt, but with grace. And give yourself permission to rest, recharge, and reconnect with yourself. Focus is not just about productivity. It's about alignment. It's about choosing what aligns with your values, your purpose, your vision. Every day you are faced with distractions, from the outside world and from within your own mind. But you get to decide what deserves your time. You get to decide what helps you grow and what keeps you stuck. The more you learn to focus your attention, the more you will start to see progress, not just motion. I often say that clarity is a form of kindness we give to ourselves. Because when you're clear on what matters most, you stop wasting time on things that don't. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. You stop chasing validation and start living with intention. That kind of clarity brings peace. And peace, to me, is one of the highest forms of success. There will always be noise. There will always be people telling you what you should do, where you should be, how fast you should move. But none of that matters if it doesn't feel true to you. Silence the noise. Tune into your own voice. Learn to sit in stillness, not just when things are calm, but especially when they're not. Because stillness doesn't mean weakness. Stillness is strength. It's knowing that your power doesn't come from how loud you are. It comes from how centered you are. And please remember, protecting your energy is not just about avoiding negativity. It's also about seeking joy. Surrounding yourself with people who uplift you. Doing things that make your soul come alive. Creating space in your life for beauty, for laughter, for presence. Because life is not meant to be a constant hustle. It's meant to be lived, deeply, intentionally, wholeheartedly. So if you feel scattered, overwhelmed, pulled in 1,000 directions, pause. Come back to yourself. Ask, is this adding to my life or taking from it? Trust that you are allowed to choose what brings you peace. You are allowed to walk away from what drains you. You are allowed to protect your energy like it's sacred. Because it is.